Hey, friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome back to Going In Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you need to be listening to. It's Wednesday. You know what that means. It's Ask Going In Raw. We reached out to all the friendos on the Patreon at patreon.com/Steven Larson, the $5 and up tier. Also, the YouTube channel members, apologies. This week, I reached out a little late to the YouTube channel members. But if you're watching us live and you want to ask questions still, we got our document with all the questions. But if we got some late questions here, please, by all means, you can do super chat, or if you're a channel member, hop in that thread and ask some questions, and we'll do those in the lightning round. I meant to do it last night while I was binge watching Quantum Leap, but it wouldn't let me do it from my phone.
Bummer, dude.
For some reason. I don't know what the deal with that is. It seems like
a bummer, man.
Should be a pretty simple situation there.
You think so,
but not quite. Anyways, we got a bunch of great questions. Like we said, every Wednesday we're doing Ask Going In Raw now, and it's open to the patrons of $5 up. YouTube channel members, click join. Also at that tier and at that channel membership, you get access to our monthly predictions challenge coming up. That's right, WrestleMania, the show of shows, the grandest stage of all of them, and you can participate.
All that good stuff, yes.
You could participate in the predictions challenge.
Actually, on that topic, we have a question here from Angelic Wolf, the current Big Red title holder.
Awesome.
Is Stand Deliver going to be part of April's predictions?
What say you, man? You're the guy who puts together the forms and everything.
I mean, it'll just be 5 extra matches. I guess we could.
You know what, man? I just say we keep it to WrestleMania.
Here's a reason to include it. The more matches, more chance of variation, and therefore the less chance of a tie.
That's a good point. However, I do appreciate that the Amos versus Brock Lesnar, who gets the time right, that's going to be a decisive thing, I feel. But if you want to toss Stand and Deliver in there, we could toss Stand and Deliver in there.
Here, let's put it to a vote. How about that?
Okay,
let the friendos
that's cool.
decide if they want to be part or not. We'll do that.
All right, we'll go ahead and we'll put up to a vote for those for the participating friendos.
We got a little bit of time left, so.
All right, cool. So yeah, why don't we just go ahead and dive into it, man? What's the first question?
First question here from Kinniku Bone Man. Says, other than LA Knight, who should take the Intercontinental title off of Gunther? Question continues. I feel like Solo could have a good run with it. Steve, what say you? I know you posited an interesting scenario where Sheamus would finally get his paws on the Intercontinental title.
That's my pick, and I think that you could have your sort of cake and eat it too, because I really want Gunther to break that honky tonk man record of 454 days. I think it is, and I think if you do it right, so I know it might be like 2 weeks off. But if they do Clash of the Castle in September, just a little bit later in September, because I think Gunther's title reign, he's supposed to break the record, I think, in mid-September, if I'm not mistaken.
Gotcha.
And so if they're able to do it at Clash of the Castle in the UK, Sheamus finally beats Gunther 1 year after losing to him there at Clash of the Castle, that would be my pick right there, man. I think you get that crowd to firmly be behind Sheamus and just the crowd just explodes. That would be my pick, man. What about you?
I like that scenario, and I'd be all for it, but I'm going to offer up another one. So there's some talk of Pete Dunne getting his name back.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you imagine there's some sort of split maybe from the Brawling Brutes. Tell that story. We know that Gunther and Pete Dunne can put on a hell of a match because we've seen him do it before.
True.
If you're the one to establish Pete Dunne on the main roster, have him be the one that beats Gunther. Get that win back after losing the NXT UK title. You can tell that whole story too. Really establish Peter Dunne on the main roster. Then Gunther can go on to the world title pursuits, and you build up a new star with Pete Dunne. Pete Dunne's one of the best wrestlers in the whole world. It seems like he's maybe unlocked some new aspect of the character of Pete Dunne with the Butch thing. Maybe keep some elements of that. Go back to some elements of the Bruiserweight. Find an amalgam. Maybe it'd be something that could really connect with people.
Let me ask you some broad strokes. How would he split from the Brutes, and what would you do to get him on the path to being the guy that beats Gunther, the Ring General? who, by the way, put on a match of the week, the match of the week with Shawn Michaels in our My GM mode over at Friendo Club Wrestling. What a great match. The video's doing gangbusters right now. But yeah, give me some broad strokes. What would you do to establish?
Off the top of my head, let's say at Mania, Sheamus comes up short again for the Intercontinental title. Gunther retains. He's got a beef now with Drew a bit. Maybe they kind of settle it to a certain extent, maybe not. Nonetheless, it could be the situation like we talked about, when Pete Dunne got called up, had his name changed, but Triple H took over to creative. We're like, okay, there's a way you can get him back to Pete Dunne. You can say, he can say to Sheamus and Ridge, you used to call me this back when, when we were, all still in the UK, even though the timing doesn't work out at all. But
yeah, keep the kayfabe though. I'm cool with that.
Yeah. But I'm not that guy anymore.
Yeah.
I need to go establish. I'm Pete Dunne. You all might call me Butch. No one else does. It's time for me to show people who I really am now. Yeah. And he goes out and he wrecks everybody. Starts snapping fingers.
Oh, I like it.
Joint manipulation. And eventually they got to come back around to feuding with Sheamus himself. And here's the thing, then if Pete Dunne beats Gunther for the Intercontinental title, then Sheamus could be like, you did that, but I didn't. And now you broke away from me, so let's feud.
Yeah.
And there's been good matches there.
I like that, man. I think that's good. Say I'm Pete Dunne with you. No, don't do that. Yeah, that's a good one. What's the next question?
Next one here, kind of thematically tied to the previous question from Jack Napier. Steve, will you please?
Yeah, absolutely. Once I get that question up on my notes here, because I'm
just asking you the quote about Jack Napier.
Oh God, I'm sorry. Yeah, I miss this every week. Anonymous tip: Napier's cleaning out Axis chemicals. Who's in charge? Eckhart, sir. Oh man, let's go.
Thank you. So Jack Napier says, how do you feel about the current Intercontinental title design? Do you think they should go back to the white strap design?
So here's the funny thing. Like, I feel like the current design has, I don't know, a little bit of the old Progress title in it mixed with, I don't know. I kind of feel like, boy, that is a beautiful title. Yeah, now that you're putting it in front of my face. Yeah, go ahead and switch it back to that shit. It looks amazing. I was going to say the current one just fits Gunther really well, but goddamn, that's a beautiful title, man.
At this point, the best thing Cody's ever done in WWE was bring this title back.
Wow, hot take. Yeah, that's a solid title right there, man.
Oh, it's beautiful.
That's beautiful. Definitely an S tier title.
Bring that back. I understand they want to push title design forward. You already got Cody advocating, lobbying to bring back the Winged Eagle title, the WWE title. Why not bring that version of the Intercontinental title back? Because it's a gorgeous belt.
Okay, let me ask you this.
What?
You got your choice. Triple H, you and him have developed a really wonderful rapport here on the show. Let's say he comes up to you, and I'll do my best Triple H impression. I don't know why I'm covering my mouth. Because it's me. I'm telling you it's an impression. Hey, Larson, you need to do you need to do, you get your choice.
You sound like a Kennedy.
You get your choice there, Larson. You could choose between the Winged Eagle and the old Intercontinental white strap. You can't do both, though. We're looking to the future. Which one would you bring back?
So I would go with the Winged Eagle for this reason. That's had a revival. That version of the Intercontinental title, thanks to Cody. That was around for a good number of years.
Yeah, right.
We haven't seen the Winged Eagle in a long, long, long time.
Yeah.
So let that have a run. And then, I don't know, probably 10 years down the line, be like, oh, we should bring back that title too, and it'll just happen.
I'll be honest with you, man. That Winged Eagle is kind of overrated. It's really small. I like the new, I like overrated. That giant corporate logo. I am overrated. I like that giant corporate logo on it. I think the new titles are kind of sick. But you know what I would do with the Intercontinental? Old but new, right? So like bring back the general idea of the old one, but soup it up a bunch. Put a bunch of shit on it, like diamonds and encrusted gems and jewels and stuff, man. That's what I would do. Just make it look cooler and more hype.
It sounds like a lot.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. More but better. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways, let's go to Frozen Tape's question here.
All right.
Frozen Tape asks, when do y'all see Kevin Owens turning heel on Sammy or vice versa?
Speaking of looking towards the future, my God, this has got to be ages from now. They just, as the Usos said, you guys have been good for 3 minutes.
Yeah. When one of them wins the world championship, then that's really gonna tell if there's going to be a turn or not, because that's just the history. It'd be interesting if Kevin Owens won the WWE title or Universal title, and Sammy turned on him.
Yeah.
You know, now that he feels like he's earned respect, which is kind of what his story has been about, basically since he signed with the company. Maybe now it's like, all right, I have the respect. Now I need to take advantage of it and exploit that respect to get gold.
Yeah,
people respect me now. They don't see this coming.
Yeah.
Especially my best friend, who usually is the one who turns on me. I'm going to turn on him this time and do what's best for me and my family, just like Kevin Owens did to him in NXT.
Yeah. Boy. So I think we're having some stream issues on YouTube. What we might do is just get through this and then re-upload it, perhaps, if it's having issues. So apologies. Somebody, Lesia here, says, you guys hearing a vibration occasionally in our voices? I don't know. That might be a stream issue. I don't know. Things seem all right here. Maybe hit reload. Anyways, boy, yeah, man. So Sammy just came off a really long time as a bad guy.
Yeah.
It would be interesting for him to turn. I wish we had like a history in front of us of like, I mean, obviously Owens came in and turned on Sammy first. Sammy turned on Kevin. Has that happened? I know he spurned him before, and they've
I don't know if they had a full on. I mean, they've obviously feuded several times.
They've feuded, yeah, but have they had like
I don't know
a Sammy?
I can't think of an instance where really Sammy turned on Kevin Owens.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well. Boy, it's so hard to see that happening in the future. But yeah, clearly it has to be, you know, once they split the titles, maybe they can make these title reigns a little less long, a little shorter perhaps. And then I'd say you go back to the well of Kevin Owens. I think, you know, it's a sort of situation where being a prize fighter, being the Kevin Owens of old, being a bad guy is kind of what he knows best. You know, it's like all this good guy stuff. He comes off as kind of awkward when he comes out there and has to celebrate his new bromance with his old best friend. And it's like, you know, it just doesn't fit right. What fits right is us always fighting. And that could be the thing. Maybe he could be like, look, Sammy, this isn't natural. You and us being on the same page, it's not natural. My instinct is we always will be linked, but we're always going to be linked as rivals. And then maybe sometimes we'll be on the same page. But the bottom line is we're always going to be rivals. That's where our history is told. And that's what our legacy is going to be. And then you get the big WrestleMania main event with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn over, sure, the Winged Eagle title. Why not?
There we go.
Yeah.
There you go. No, I mean, I understand the idea of turning Kevin Owens heel because that's a tried and true formula, but just to kind of subvert
mix it up a little bit. Yeah.
I mean, different.
Yeah, I mean, given that Sammy was, you know, he was a bad guy for so long, the conspiracy theorist for such a long time, it would be kind of interesting if there was something that triggered that again, and he started diving back into the conspiracy stuff. Like, oh, now even Kevin Owens is involved. I can't even trust him. But yeah, sometimes Kevin Owens, as much as I love him as a good guy, he comes off sometimes as a bit on the board side as a good guy.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like he just probably gets a bigger kick out of playing an asshole. You know, it fits him so well.
Yeah, he's really good at it. He's really good at it. You know, by all accounts, he seems like a really pleasant individual.
Yeah, it is one of the rare situations where it's like I understand just from watching his social media and stuff. This guy's probably a good dude. He's probably like as solid as they come.
Yeah.
But then he's just so much fun as a bad guy.
I know. A question here from Odd Breakfast. Would you say Sammy and Kevin Owens versus the Usos should main event night one, not only because of the story, because it would hopefully help make the tag team championships feel more important?
That's a good point. Although this is sort of a situation where I don't think the tag titles need to feel important. I think that like the actual drama between the competitors is much more interesting than just, a couple of tag titles.
Yeah.
Should it main event? I don't feel it needs to. I really don't. I think that WrestleMania night one is going to be 3.5 to 4 hours long, maybe 3.5 max, maybe. But and so you got plenty of time there. Between I look back at 2019, it was the last year. I think it was 1 year. It was one night.
Yeah.
And one of our concerns was how are they going to make Seth winning, Kofi winning, and Becky winning all feel very important? Kofi Mania happened during the middle of the show. Seth winning happened at the beginning of the show because Brock didn't want to stick around. And Becky winning happened in the main event. Kofi Mania, in my mind, is still was such a great, great emotional moment. Happened in the middle of the show. So you can have some fun stuff at the beginning of the show. And then the serious stuff happens at an hour and a half in, or at the top of the second hour, something like that. Yeah. And that's the tag title match. That's the Usos versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. I'm fine with that. Great case to be made for it main eventing, but I'd rather Rhea versus Charlotte main event night one.
The number one reason I would advocate for the tag title match main event night one is because it's probably the strongest story available.
Absolutely it is. Yeah.
And the history with Rhea and Charlotte and the star power of that match, totally, it's worthy of the main event. I just wish that creative had come up with a better story than the one they've got.
From
because if you add the history, the star power with Rhea and Charlotte, plus an intriguing story, that's a no-brainer then.
But also, technically speaking, Rhea Ripley, she did win the Women's Rumble.
I know.
Should be main eventing.
Totally.
The thing I can't stand is calling a match a main event when it happens midway through the show. Yeah. She won the Rumble. She has the right to main event WrestleMania. That to me is sure, the story's not great, but you earned it. You won the Rumble. Put her on last.
That's a fair point. So if the tag title match isn't going to main event night one, I feel like it should go on first night two. Have night two be focused on the Bloodline story.
I like that idea, man.
You book in night two with the Bloodline matches. You can shoot some bits night one to build to that. I mean, if I had my druthers, that's actually where I'd prefer the tag match to be, is open night two.
I think that's a cool idea. My one caveat to that, my one counter to that would be when if the Usos lose to Sammy and Kevin, right? We could get that moment the next day where a clearly sleepless Jay and Jimmy, like Pac when he lost the Cruiserweight Championship. So they show up the next day and they have not slept at all. And they are so done with Roman shit that now when the main event comes up, Roman has to rely on them. And they're
napping on the bus.
They're like, fuck you, man. All the mahi in the world ain't going to get me to help you out now.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
More Bloodline questions here from Luis. What's next for all the members of the Bloodline, including Heyman? Should they disband at Mania? What do you see happening with them next if they don't disband? The only way they won't disband after Mania is if Roman and the Usos all retain, and I don't see that happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
there might be a split in that either the Usos lose the tag titles or Roman loses the world title. Both could lose their titles. I don't see a situation where everybody retains. Don't see it happening.
Yeah.
And so if the Usos lose and Roman wins, that's going to cause issues.
Mm-hmm.
If the Usos win and Roman loses, that's going to cause issues.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of storyline options there. If they all lose, then done. What Cody said on Raw is true.
Mm-hmm.
It's all going to fall apart for Roman. As far as what they should do next, go ahead.
Oh no, you go. You keep continue.
I mean, if you assume that Roman takes some time off, maybe till the summer, who knows?
Maybe SummerSlam,
then you got to think, okay, do you want to have the rematch between Roman and Cody? No interference, no overbooking, just a solid one-on-one bout.
Mm-hmm.
Or when Roman comes back, do you want him to feud with Jay?
Mm-hmm.
Jay finally gets the win over Roman. I don't know. I kind of feel like as successful in a lot of ways the Roman Cody thing has been so far.
Mm-hmm.
If they can build up as, okay, this is Roman trying to reclaim what is his and
mm-hmm.
reclaim the bloodline and prove to all the other members of it that, look, I'm still head of the table.
Yeah.
And he still comes up short. That's a story worth telling.
You know what, man? I think I think that the bloodline needs to. I think things have to come to a head at WrestleMania for sure, especially with Jay. What I would love to see is one of two things, and I think I prefer this. Solo leaves, and he takes inspiration from Roman and starts to put together his own faction. Because I think if you're the enforcer and you leave and you're just a solo guy, so to speak, you're never going to shed that image of you as simply the enforcer. So I think it's going to be difficult for the crowd to be like, oh, okay, we'll get behind this guy. But if Solo's like, well, screw that. I want to be my own tribal chief. I want to be a dude in charge. He starts gathering his own troops away from the Usos and away from Roman. So Solo becomes the head of his own tribe, if you will, his own tribal chief. I think that's a good way to get him going. But I think what could be more interesting, or you could do this in conjunction at the same time, is Jay becomes the new tribal chief. Jay, maybe WWE, a little bit of contract tampering, gets Jacob Fatu over to the WWE, and he becomes their enforcer, the Usos enforcer. But Jay takes on a leadership role. I think that'd be the best way to go. You can't just, it's just like Roman. You can't just dump him back in the pool and be like, okay, now he's going to fight Finn Balor. It's nah, he's too big for that.
Yeah.
And so Roman disappears probably till maybe around SummerSlam or so. Maybe. And meanwhile, Jay is sort of rebuilding his version of the bloodline with like some new faces, perhaps. Maybe Naomi. Maybe they're finally convinced Naomi to come back, and she becomes like, the women's division element of the bloodline finally, or Tamina or whatever. And so you get like a Bloodline 2.0. I mean, look at The Godfather. You had Brando, and then Brando gets shot up. They need a new head guy, so they go to Sonny. He's a mess, so they go to Michael. And then you get a new family right there. Yeah. So that's what I would do. And then Roman comes back, and then there's a built-in storyline. Then maybe Jay gets consumed with power, and they do build him up that way. I don't know. There's a lot of interesting things they could do. I feel like if they just fizzle out, that's the worst.
Yeah,
that's what you don't want to do. You got to write chapter 2 of this.
I know there's momentum for everybody involved in this. You got to keep that up.
Let's pause really quick here because we've got some super chats and some bits here. The Blind Mask, new channel member. Thank you very much for your channel membership. Scott Woodford giving us an update on our tech issue, says you sound fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Noor with a super chat says Lashley destroys a Moss during entrances and takes his place in the big Brock Lesnar match. Lashley could get involved in that match.
That's entirely possible, but
especially
I'd be surprised
now.
At this point.
I don't know what's going to happen. Is there a latest rumor on what's going on with the Wyatt stuff?
Nothing.
Odd Breakfast, also a member now for 1 month. Thank you very much. Says Crisis of Confidence Roman after Mania sounds like it could be good. I mean, that's one thing. If Jay takes over and starts getting full of himself, Roman could come back and be like, hey, I've done a lot of reflecting, and what I did was fucked up, and I kind of see what you're doing with that too now.
Yeah.
Don't make my mistakes. And Jay's like, I'm not making your mistakes, Oos.
Yeah.
Also, a flock of morons here had a ton of bits for us. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We got a question here from Alex Foster. If Roman retains at Mania and they split the titles, with Cody getting the WWE title at some point, what should be the next step for everyone, the bloodline, particularly Jay? Here's the thing. If Roman wins and they split the titles and then Cody ends up getting the WWE title anyways, I'm pretty sure that's not how Cody wants to get the WWE title. You know what I mean?
Yeah, probably not. Yeah.
You don't want to get a title just by having it handed to you, especially if your story is winning that title.
Yeah, this isn't like Triple H back when Eric Bischoff just handed him the title.
No. So if Roman retains and they split, Cody's got to work to get that title.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
He can't just be handed that to him. So what should the next step for Jay be? I mean, I would love to have Jay get into a feud with Roman. The thing is that I have a hard time believing they're ever going to put a world title on Jey Uso, despite the fact that he has been one of the best performers in the company for the better part of 3 years. And there's a story you could tell with it. I would love to see it. I'd be really surprised if they ever followed through on that, though.
Generally speaking, you're right. But Heyman loved to do that shit back in ECW. I mean, what a challenge. Take a guy who has been known as like the tag team champion of his time, Jey Uso, him and Jimmy, the Usos, and then you try to get one over as a world champion after this long. It's not like it's the Rockers where they were together in the WWF for a couple of years and then you split them.
Yeah.
They've been together forever. They're the winningest tag team ever. But on the strength of his performance, I guarantee the people would buy into it.
Oh, they would. They absolutely would.
And if you could get Heyman to convince Triple H or Vince or whoever the hell it is now, and they're interested in it, him as the new, if you just test the waters with him leading a new bloodline, man, oh man, I think there's a lot of fun stuff you could do with that. I think it could elevate him. Would they do it? I don't know. It's a different day though. If it was Vince still running at the position at, Gorilla, like running creative every single week, that would never happen.
No.
But these days, you could test the waters out without the world title too. If he just puts together a faction and he's running things, and you could test that out without titles on the line.
Yeah, it's possible. I'd be surprised if it were to happen.
Yeah, same.
Leslie Harding here asks, if I want to get into watching NXT, who should I watch out for, and who do you anticipate moving up to the main roster next?
All right. So top of the roster in terms of who's going to move up soon.
Whoever loses between Braun and Carmella, that stand deliver, is probably going up.
And I would not be shocked to see them maybe if Carmelo gets the title, wouldn't be shocked to see him on main roster as well.
Yeah.
I think that'd be phenomenal. Yeah.
As far as who you should look out for, high on that list is Carmelo Hayes.
Grayson Waller is going to go to main roster soon too.
Probably. Yeah. Like there's a lot of really good wrestlers in NXT right now. You got Axiom, you got Nathan Frazier, you got Hank Walker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You got Roxanne Perez, Sol Ruca.
Probably the one. Well, I was about to say that name. The one that is probably going to have a massive career down the line, like a year from now, should probably get called up, is of course Sol Ruca. NXT they weave storylines in and out of each other and use the chemistry that they have developed over the past 2 years better than anybody else. It really is like, it's like WWE's Impact. That's what it's
starting
like.
to become more like NXT UK used to be.
Yeah, but like, I don't know, it's even better than that at this point because they have so many people from UK there that it infuses the best of that when it comes to like character-based stories. But then they actually, with UK, so much of it was like, hey, you're running into somebody in the hallway, and they've got chemistry and history, so it works. But like in NXT UK, they actually tell stories.
Yeah.
And it is the kind of thing where, unlike with main roster where you got to watch 5 hours of TV, you watch your 2 hours of NXT, you're pretty good. Like, like nobody, and because they haven't really sent anybody to main roster yet.
Yeah,
like,
it's been a while.
It's been a while. Like, I don't think I think they're going to do a better job quantum leaping people out of there.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. Adam David Dodd says, look 5 years into the future.
In the year 2020.
And I want your answer in the form of a quatrain, please, Steve. If Tony Khan approaches
absolutely.
booking the same way, will it be a detriment to the growth of AEW if he remains sole booker? All right, no Steve Damas. What's your answer?
Okay, no Steve Damas. Quatrain is what, 4 lines?
Yeah.
All right. If Tony Khan doesn't
It's got to have a meter to it, though, right?
If Tony Khan doesn't refrain, no, I'm not going to do that shit. That's too much for me. Look, he's got to start putting his promoter hat on, man. That's the thing. I understand that, if he debuts a new name on Twitter like Vikingo, it's really not that difficult to look up some really cool Vikingo clips on YouTube. At the same time, this is your promotion. This is your thing. You've got 800,000 people solid watching every single week. Give us a little taste, give those people a reason to get hyped up instead of having to Google the machine, instead of having to tweet on Google the name Vikingo. What you got to do is you got to hype them up a little bit. Do like a cool vignette. Vikingo is coming. Who's his first match going to be against? I don't know. Maybe somebody cool, Phoenix or something like that. And then you do the Kenny Omega match. The dude needs to put his promoter hat on. He used to be a really phenomenal promoter, and now it's like, let me tweet out this card right here. And I think that kind of thing, plus you gotta go back to some long-term storytelling. You gotta give us these cliffhangers where people are hanging on and they want to see what's going to happen the next week. And you got to stop booking matches for the sake of matches. You gotta get some story motivated matches, man. That's what you need.
I feel like Tony Khan needs to pay attention to what Matt Hardy, Ethan Page have been doing for a number of months, usually on Dark and Elevation, but we see it pop up occasionally on Rampage and Dynamite. Well, they've been telling the story between the two of them. Seemingly, this is something they came up with. They're just doing kind of on their own. Mm-hmm. And it's not huge. It's not flashy. It's just flashy. It's just based on two characters clashing. Mm-hmm. But they're such strong, well-established characters that you find what's going to cause an issue between them, and there's tension. Mm-hmm. You know, essentially, Matt Hardy had his contract. Was it? I can't remember if it was won in a match or something like that by the firm. Mm-hmm. So he's in a faction he didn't want to be in at first, and first he was defiant, but now he's kind of like, okay, this is cool. Mm-hmm. But is he saying that just to eventually get them comfortable so we could turn on them? Mm-hmm. Or is this a legitimate thing where he's actually cool being there? Yeah. And it's interesting stuff. It's not huge. It's not a main event story. But at its root, it's two characters who are clashing. And it worked because there's two really talented people behind it. Yeah. Who know their characters and know how to portray their characters on TV. Yeah. You know, and if you focus on, not every story has to be this huge. I mean, shit, I love the Bloodline story as much as anybody. That's like a once in a lifetime, once in a generation type deal. Those stories don't come around wrestling very often, if ever, to that level of quality. You know, but AEW's done it. They did it with Hangman and the Elite. They did it with Punk and MJF. There's a history of them doing it from time to time. Mm-hmm. You just have to focus on building up characters, having their actions motivated by who they are as characters, and pitting them against people that they can clash against, not just in terms of having a match, in terms of personalities. Mm. Just start with that. Yeah. It's like basic storytelling. Just start with that.
There is a certain structure in pro wrestling storytelling that honestly Vince did kind of perfect. He really did. When he went week to week with Monday Night Raw, he really did eventually sort of perfect how that works. Now, when you get off that formula, when you get off that structure, it could be dog shit like we've seen a lot in Raw when Vince, during his sad last years. But when it's good, it's really damn good. We saw a lot of that with Vince too, back in, the Attitude Era, some Ruthless Aggression. There are a lot of really good Raws out there. Mm-hmm. When you stick to a structure that embraces a sense of urgency, mm-hmm. When it embraces a continual motion, when things continue to advance. And I just feel like some of AEW's booking over the last year has been a bit on the lazy side. And I think it takes for granted there's an audience out there because, man, whether it's anecdotally or you can look at the metrics, the numbers just really aren't there. And I'm sorry, but when you have the name value in AEW that so many of their wrestlers have and the following that so many of the wrestlers have, they shouldn't be pulling in 150,000 more than NXT, where there's zero name value, but there's the brand of WWE. Mm-hmm. You should be doing $1 million every week. I'm sorry. When you should be building on your numbers, not bleeding your audience.
Yeah.
This is my take.
If we've learned anything from this Bloodline story, you learn that story is what gets people watching. You can get a short-term pop by bringing people in or having a huge moment or something, but if you want to bring people in and hopefully have them stick around, you got to tell some interesting stories. You have to. It's the thing that keeps people coming back. And if you don't push those stories every single week, they're not going to come back. They're going to leave. Yep. Ty Moore here asks, what would you say makes wrestling special for you guys compared to other forms of entertainment? Oh, I guess the one thing we didn't do in that last question, 2028, where's AEW going to be? 850,000. No reason to think otherwise at this point. Timer says, what would you say makes wrestling special for you guys compared to other forms of entertainment? It is the weird thing that, like, because you and I are big movie buffs, right? Yeah. But since 1997, when I first started watching, I know you started, much younger, but in 97, when I started watching,
there is something interesting about it that it's difficult to just sort of put your finger on, you know. It's such a weird, it's such an oddball form of entertainment, fake fighting with soap opera type storylines, with very flashy characters, and there is something very strange about that keeps me coming back, even though I've seen pretty much every move there is to be seen and combination thereof. So I'll be honest with you. I don't know what it is. There's some element of like these people performing in front of a live crowd and they all look like sort of comic book characters, which is something that appeals to me because I was a big comic book nut. And I don't know, there's just an element of weird and unique and cool about it.
You know, thinking about it, there's two things to me. It's fascinating, and they're interrelated. It's fascinating and interesting, and the process by which these wrestlers are able to do that is to tell a story in the ring with movement. And yes, the movements are choreographed moves to make you think they're fighting, but like dance, they're telling a story through movement.
Mm-hmm,
when they're telling stories in the ring, and I always found that really, really interesting. And then the process of how they do that.
Mm-hmm.
The that's one aspect of the curtain that we haven't really got a consistent look behind is the magic of telling stories through movement in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
You get little glimpses. I mention this all the time. There was a video on Rolling Stone where they were doing a thing on the Young Bucks where they were backstage at a Ring of Honor show. I think they had a match against LIJ.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that, and this and that. How the matches are laid out.
Yeah.
Story beats. How are they laid out? How are they hit?
Mm-hmm.
I know there's verbal cues that happen in the ring. I know by and large, I think matches, if they're planned in advance, it's not every move. Not everybody's like Macho Man and Steamboat where they plan every single move out from beginning to end.
Right.
I think they plan out the major story beats and then kind of improvise in between. But that, a lot of it's like jazz, it seems like.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Where you have a theme, you have a motif, and you work off that until you hit your moments that you want to hit.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the pre-planned story beats, the storytelling aspect of it, the improvisational nature of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's really interesting. There's wrestlers that go and call everything in the ring and still have a compelling bout.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just endlessly fascinating to me, how they can play the crowd, know when to turn it on, know when to switch things up.
Mm-hmm.
That just really fascinates me. So, even if I was actually there consistently seeing wrestlers plan out their stuff, I don't think that would kill the magic for me. If anything, that would enhance it. It's sort of like when we watch director's commentaries, to a degree, it demystifies the process of making a movie.
Yeah.
But because the secrets behind it, you're like, wow,
mm-hmm.
the process is almost as interesting as what we see out there.
Well, the thing about because we've had a very limited but not unsubstantial exposure to people doing that, to behind the scenes stuff, and it is fascinating because it is simply, in a case of a one-on-one match, anyways, just two people telling a story, right? Mm-hmm. And then they have to go perform that, and they do that. They're just backstage telling each other, "This is how we're going to do this," right?
Yeah,
and it is fascinating. And it's like with when people are making movies, it's fascinating, or making music, it's fascinating to see the process. I like watching tutorials on how to light things, for video on YouTube, because it's fascinating. You basically take all the light away. If you're in a situation, take all the light away, and then you add light, right? But it's a very technical thing. With wrestling, like you said, improv or jazz, it's like two people bouncing ideas off each other. Ideally, obviously we've heard of situations where it's like, doesn't work for me, brother.
Yeah.
But ideally, it's not a Hogan, Russo, Bischoff situation in a trailer somewhere where, things are being said and not promised. But yeah, no, it's fascinating to watch people get on the same page and have that level of trust in each other, because shit can happen in the ring if you're not careful with each other.
Yep.
The dance that we've talked about between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns when it comes to their promos, how Roman sells the shit out of being unnerved by what Cody says. is such a wonderful thing to see, because he trusts that, of course, being so involved in the story behind the scenes, he trusts that this story is going to be playing out the way it is and capturing our imaginations.
Yeah.
And it's a very special thing. It's a very interesting thing.
When Roman is giving to that extent as a performer, he's got to trust that the person across the ring from him is going to give just the same.
Right, exactly.
You know, if you're there, if you're selling everything that's your opponent's saying, but when you drop your promo on the other guy and he no-sells it, then the story's not being told.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
You know, there's that give and take.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's not just you're out there reciting your lines, you're listening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're responding based on what you heard, even though you might know exactly what that guy is going to say.
Yeah, right.
You got to respond as if that's brand new to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that takes listening, you know?
Yeah.
Rather than waiting on a cue. So
it's fascinating stuff.
It's an interesting art form where you got elements of, theater, dance, jazz, kind of all mixed up into something that's very unique. And it's interesting to study. It is. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see here. Casey9129 says, did you ever have a definitive moment when you realized pro wrestling was a work? My earliest memory of pro wrestling was either one of two things. It was either the Hulk Hogan Rock and Wrestling cartoon, or it was Thunder Lips in Rocky 3. And I think because of Thunder Lips, I always knew, like, there was always that thing where, I understand this guy is a pro wrestler and he's given Rocky the cues, or because they do the thing and Rocky's being twisted around. But then afterwards, there's the wink and a nod between Thunder Lips and Rocky. Oh, it's all a big goof. Yeah. I think that was what informed my opinion on wrestling in terms of it being a work. And then when you see the cartoon, and then from when I was a child, anytime WWF was brought up, somebody would say, that's the fake stuff. So from day one, my first exposure to pro wrestling, I always knew it was a work.
Same. As soon as I started watching, that's one of the first things my dad told me. He's like, they aren't really fighting. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I've told Alabama. Yeah. Nevertheless, she came out to the Action Coast show 2 months ago and loved it. Yep. Loved it. And part of it is because, Hilton's kid was next to her, little Sammy, and she was like all up into it also. And she's a little bit older than Bama, so Bama was taking cues from her. But, when one of the wrestlers grabbed maybe it was Tripp, I forget. Somebody grabbed a baseball bat and Bama was freaking out. Yeah. But she knows it's all a play. And then afterwards, Tripp was yelling at her and she was yelling at him. And and to have that interaction with the wrestlers is really special. Yeah. It really is. But she understands that everybody it's a play. And I think if it had been presented that way, and I'm really curious if they hadn't been so adamant about keeping kayfabe. Hey, this is, the way they're much looser with it now, the way it's just completely out there now. From the get-go, from when Vince took over all the territories and he went national, if he really exposed it to a degree back then, I wonder if there would be, because to this day, people are like, oh, it's fake stuff. Well, yeah, but so are movies and so are TV shows. Yeah, that's the stupidest, that's the laziest thing you could say about it. Yeah. We know, everybody knows it's fake. Yeah, exactly. You gonna talk crap about a movie fight scene just because it's choreographed? You're watching Perry Mason. That's fake. I know. Oh, you're watching one of the Bourne movies. That's super fake. They're not really fighting. They're not really fighting. Well, yeah, no shit. I know they're not fighting. Yeah. I can still be impressed with the technical skill it takes to choreograph that fight scene. Right. Exactly. And the performances of said fight scene. Anyways. Stan here has a question. Says, as a new friendo, I've heard rumors of Steve Larson, once too sweeting AJ Styles. Is this true or a vicious conspiracy theory? Also, what is your favorite non-wrestling conspiracy theory? So let's address the elephant in the room here. This AJ Styles, please. Nonsense. Yeah, nonsense. So let's start at the beginning. So I think it was 2017, 2018. We were invited to. Yeah, we were invited to one of the events for one of the 2K games.
Yeah, sure.
It was after we went to SummerSlam. So I can't remember if it was 2017, 2018. So Sasha Banks was there. Got to interview her.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
AJ Styles was also there.
Right.
Got to interview him. Awesome.
Yeah.
That was around the time where Larson Doesn't Too Sweet was a huge thing here on the show. So what does Steve do? He brings that up.
Of course. It was awesome.
In front of AJ Styles. Of course, former Bullet Club member.
Two AJ Styles, yeah.
Yes, two AJ Styles. And so AJ and I are there talking about it briefly with Steve. And AJ says, hey, maybe after the show, maybe we'll throw it up.
When the cameras aren't rolling, yeah.
The cameras aren't rolling. And I was like, all right, we'll see what happens. So cameras start rolling, packing stuff up.
Mm-hmm. Stop rolling, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else there is to really say.
Yeah. Oh, so you're still going to do this. Okay. So I'll from my perspective,
that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to set up different perspectives here, Steve.
Okay.
So this is
right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
As this exists in 2017, 2018, this is a narrative. Continue, Steve.
So this is my perspective on that. So yeah, I brought it up to him. I said, because I'm like, look, AJ was a Bullet Club leader. He's AJ Styles. We just had a killer interview with him, by the way. He's probably It's probably my favorite interview. And because we're talking about like video games and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I too sweet. I'm like, fuck, dude, I got the too sweet the Bullet Club leader, former IWGP champion. And I was like, hey, I want to know, Larson, you're here with the Bullet Club leader. You're going to too sweet the guy. And he said, maybe, when the cameras got off. So, as per usual, me doing most of the work, putting the cameras away and stuff. One skill of mine is I do have an S tier periphery. My peripheral vision is unmatched, right? Like I can see, I've got two fingers up right now, right?
Your cones and rods are strong, huh?
They really are. And so in my periphery, I see arm movement between you and AJ.
We could have shaken hands. Could have high-fived.
That's right. But usually people don't shake hands up here. And a high five I would have heard and would be too high. The too sweet is like that. Not a high five, not a handshake. It's right here. But on top of that, on that probably would not have even it would not have crossed my mind to question what just happened. I would have thought you guys were just like, whatever. But you went in my periphery, you looked at me and went, ha ha ha. And I was like, the fuck? Oh, okay. So you just did that and you're laughing at me because I didn't catch it, because I didn't see it. You totally did that. And I was like, okay. Oh, man. So I missed it. Okay. That's cool. Right on. So I ask you, sir, back here where I wasn't paying attention, now that we're in 2023 and you too sweet freely, you too sweeted the Bullet Club leader, didn't you?
All right, fine, I did.
I knew it. I fucking knew you did.
And you know what else? I also too sweeted Kenny Omega. We were sitting ringside at the Long Beach show.
That one's on video. That cracked me up. Let me ask you this. Did you worry that you were going to be exposed for that one because somebody mentioned
Larson. The thing.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. So he came out, maybe it was during the entrance of his match. He came out, or maybe it was earlier in the show. I can't remember. Where I act like when I knew you're there, you could see me out of your peripheral vision. I act like I was going to do it, and then I pulled it back.
I remember that. Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know if that's the one that was caught on video or not.
Ah, okay.
But the other time, your back was turned towards me, so I stuck my hand down real quick
and got it in. Huh? And he saw it and did it.
Yeah.
So we've had, and I forget, I'll be honest with you, I forget if I too sweeted Kenny. I know I fist bumped Naito that night.
Yeah.
But I don't know if so you might have too sweeted more Bullet Club members than I have. That's a possibility. Yeah. Because I don't remember if I got one from Kenny or not. I'm usually the guy when I try to get a high five from somebody, they just ignore me.
So that show is a too sweet from Kenny, the fist bump from Naito, and the high five from Okada.
And oh wow, you got a high five from Okada?
Yeah.
Holy shit! Wow,
it was a good night.
So you've basically been inducted into 4 major factions because you got a shoulder pat from Scott Norton.
Yeah.
So which faction would you choose
Oof.
Now that you have 4 applications out there.
Well, I guess technically it's 5, I guess. Since I two-sweeted Kenny, that would make me potentially eligible for the Elite as well.
Oh, correct.
Would
Absolutely.
it not?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So, not Bullet Club now, because as much as I enjoy House of Torture and Kenta's great, Bullet Club's not what it used to be.
No, not at all.
Same with the NWO.
Yeah.
So that'd leave the Elite or Chaos.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, I feel like Kazuchika Okada is one of the 3 best wrestlers in the world.
Yeah. Is Chaos still a thing?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I really love what Okada's doing now, where he's kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
So I guess right now, sitting here, I'd say Chaos.
Okay. All right. Yeah, man. I don't know. To be able to claim that you're a former member of the NWO, I think that legacy-wise would probably be the most impactful.
Yeah, that was the most unexpected interaction with Scott Norton, just walking by and putting his hand on my shoulder. We were sitting there at StarCast. It was like the second or third day. And then
in the
days.
ether, in the air, you just hear...
I know. We are in control.
So I'm glad that's finally, all these years, honestly, your gaslighting of me with that incident did a lot of trauma. I had to go to BetterHelp.com.
I for the most part, I feel like I was pretty consistent in not giving direct answers to the question.
And what's sad to me is just how far under the radar the video we made where you finally two-sweeted.
It was during a stream, yeah.
Well, we did a little. We did a short film.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
It was when I dyed my hair, and there was like literally the thumbnails. You two-sweeting the big gold title.
That's right.
Time for lightning round. What parts of the wrestling from Fluffy Canuck? What parts of the wrestling lexicon should people understand if they want to comprehend the wrestling world deeper?
Kayfabe.
Yeah, Fuzzy Dunlop.
It really is the thing that ties it all together.
It is. Where does Jerry Lawler deserve to be talked about when discussing the GOATs? Longevity, impact, success, running a territory long after Vince went global. It seems he's done so much, yet it never really gets talked about. I do feel like Lawler's legacy might have been tainted a little bit because of the overtly sexist nature of his Attitude Era commentary. I think that there's a lot of people turned off by that at this point. There's a lot of people who defend it because it's of the times. But there's some ugliness back then that I feel does a disservice to him.
I guess with Lawler, so much of his prime when he was huge was in the territory days, and obviously he was huge in the Memphis territory, and there was some crossover when he did the feud with Andy Kaufman, but by the time he was in AWA, which had national television, that's when AWA was basically on its last legs. And then when he came to WWE, he was never really presented as the Lawler he was in Memphis.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And so maybe that's why. I mean, along with what you're mentioning, I think that's an aspect of it too, but at least in terms of what he's contributed to the wrestling business, that might have something to do with it as well. Like a lot of people who know him primarily for WWE, his WWE time, might not know what he did in Memphis.
Yeah, for sure.
But he won like 250 titles or something like that.
Yeah. Good answer. Joe Compton, who should open and close each night of WrestleMania?
So night 1 should open with Gunther, Sheamus, and Drew.
Ooh, whoa.
And then close with Rhea and Charlotte. Night 2 should open with the tag title, and of course close with Roman and Cody.
All right, I'll go a little bit different. I will say night 1 should open with Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul. Get it out of the way. Close with Rhea and Charlotte, of course. Night 2 should open with... I'd open night 2 with that Intercontinental Championship match. And then close with, of course, Roman Cody. Brendan Monroe, do you see any 5-star matches at Mania? If so, which ones? The Intercontinental Championship has got to be.
That's got potential. The tag title match has potential. I mean, depending how...
I think Rhea Charlotte could go 5 stars.
I think Bianca Asuka could too.
I think that could too as well.
Depending on how deliberately paced Roman Cody is, if they really take their time with it, and really do a slow build, I don't know if that would necessarily. I think the potential is there just based on the story involved for there to be a 5-star match. But if they really take it slow and like we're going to do a 40-minute main event to make it feel impactful and huge and important, that might actually kind of detract from it, because I feel like a lot of people are like, okay, we know we're just here. We just want to get to the end when we want to see how everything is going to fall together to lead to Cody either winning or losing. And I think anything that precedes that is going to be people like, all right, come on. When is Jimmy and Jay going to come out? When is Sammy and Kevin going to come out? When is this all going to start happening?
Yeah.
Where do we get these story beats for the bloodline falling apart or not?
Hey, that tag title match is going to get 5 stars. Because those dudes are they're the Dave Meltzer guys, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
Yeah.
They're going to do one of them type
5
matches.
stars, Dave.
Ring of Honor. They're going to get the Ring of Honor match.
Yep.
Blake Whitehouse, who would you guys say had a more successful career in WWE, Rikishi or Umaga?
I really was not watching much when Umaga was around.
Neither was I. I feel like it was probably Rikishi. Like they were fucking over. Like Rikishi and his dudes, man.
Yeah.
They were so fucking popular.
Yeah.
Super popular.
Yeah, they were. Cameron asks, after WrestleMania, do you think we will see more WWE Universal title changes since the belt has been with the same guy for 2+ years? I hope so.
Emilio Sparks mentioned on Twitter that he felt the current thing about long title reigns is kind of a current fad, which I kind of agree with. And I feel like it's going to backlash. It's going to swing back to shorter title reigns. So, yeah, I think that's going to be the case.
Yeah.
Elvin says, I still haven't gotten over the way Vince pushed Roman down our throats to the point that I don't care about Roman and really haven't enjoyed him as much as I've enjoyed Jimmy and Sammy. To me, Roman is just a prop to this story. Is that a bad way to feel? If by bad way you mean is that like a hot take or an unpopular opinion, feel how you feel.
Yeah.
I understand that point of view. I totally do. I mean, when they went back to Brock versus Roman at whatever SummerSlam, was it SummerSlam?
SummerSlam,
Yeah, SummerSlam. There were people who were like, I don't care if it's Triple H. I'm not going to watch this shit because it's Brock versus Roman. Yeah, it's a normal take.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, to the extent why I'm so lukewarm on Cody is because I got tired of his thing in AEW. I was over it.
Yeah, man.
And that just kind of carried into WWE. I'm not saying he's doing bad work or he's lousy at his job. It's just I have this notion of Cody the character in my head that I can't get out, and I haven't seen anything on television that's gotten it out of my head.
Yeah, I can't get Cody out of my head either, man, but it's a different thing. Next up, John Hosey says, who would be a good first opponent for Sammy and Kevin Owens after they probably win the tag championships at WrestleMania?
There's been a lot less talk about those titles splitting up.
That's true. There's been like no talk.
So maybe if they're going to split the world title, they'll split those titles too. Are they going to be on Raw? Are they going to be on SmackDown? Sammy and Kevin, that is.
I feel like they're going to be on Raw. I don't know why. I just feel like they're Raw people.
That way.
Yeah. Lucha Club Studios, who should be Rhea's first title defense if she wins? She's going to be on SmackDown.
Ronda or Shayna.
That's good. Zyshawn Moore says, who do you feel had the biggest rise and falls in between WrestleManias? For example, Becky Lynch was in the pre-show of WrestleMania 34 and ended up main eventing the next year. Wouldn't the answer be Jinder both? Like, Jinder was, I think, in the Andre Battle Royal before the year before.
Yeah.
And the year after, I don't think he was doing much of anything.
I think he was in the U.S. title picture.
That's what I was going to say. I think it was in the U.S. title.
In between, he was WWE champion. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a quick ascent and a quick fall.
What about the Nakamura, the year he won the Rumble and he and AJ had the title bout? What did he do the year before or the year after?
That's a good question. I don't know, but that sounds like probably because he was kind of a surprise, refreshing surprise Rumble winner.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The Blind Mask, what legend from each era would succeed in modern WWE or AEW and which would flop if they debuted today? So let's only go this back so far as Attitude Era. Who in the Attitude Era would succeed today?
The Attitude Era, who would succeed?
I think a lot of people wouldn't. The wrestling world isn't that different.
Well, go back one era. Go back 2 eras.
Like the Rock and Wrestling era?
No, go to the new generation.
Oh gosh. Well, obviously like HBK, Bret Hart.
Yeah.
They would all be wildly successful. 1, 2, 3 Kid.
Like here's a name I'm just going to pull from around that generation. It proceed a little bit, but Mr. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Perfect had that thing that like he was ahead of his time with his personality.
Yeah.
You know, Heenan was, you know, he was way ahead of his time.
Oh yeah.
With the personality that you can take those guys and because there was none of that. There was none of that. Let me tell you something, brother stuff. It was all very like he knew there was. I don't know what you want to call it, but there's a self-awareness there.
Yeah. Yes. Attitude Era. Again, there's a lot of people from the Attitude Era that would fit in today. A lot.
I'm trying to think of somebody who would really stick out though. Because like there's a reason Triple H, for example, changed. You know, like he really adapted. Well, Jericho. I mean, Jericho's been a master of reinvention, but Jericho at his essence is still Jericho, and that's why he still works to this day. Because again, the self-awareness. When he was doing the 1,004 moves, tell me that wouldn't go great today.
Oh, that'd be over huge today.
It'd be super over today.
Yeah. I guess anybody who's got a penchant for reinvention or finding different aspects of their character to pursue would definitely fit in today and could work a decent match.
The wrestlers who understood. Sorry, go ahead. I cut you off.
I'd say that in terms of like the major difference between like probably pre-Attitude Era and post is work rate. I think across the board.
Yeah.
Not to say that all the matches in the Attitude Era were fantastic, but it definitely felt like once Vince got away from the vocational gimmicks and the over the top characters and is more grounded in reality in the Attitude Era, then they decide, okay, these matches would be more grounded. And it felt like quality started to pick up. And this isn't just in WWE. I felt like in WCW, you had the cruiserweights definitely up in the quality of the in-ring product over there.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You know, from the mid 90s onward, I think we see the steady progression of improved in-ring work to the point now where like right now we might have more super talented in-ring performers now than we ever have.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I think if you can reinvent yourself on a regular basis and you can work a decent enough work rate, I think you could fit into any era pretty much.
Yeah. Mondo says, if you were to open your own wrestling themed restaurant, what would you call it? What would be the decor? It would be some things you'd include on the menu. These questions always require me to be a lot more clever than I can be in the moment. It'd be
Steve, what's the term for a really stiff punch?
Potato.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, potato. Yeah. Instead of scallop potatoes, it'd be the wallop potato.
It'd be just all sorts of different kinds of potatoes.
Well, here's what I would call my restaurant. I'd call it restaurant, but with a W in front of it.
God damn it.
It'd be Wrestlerant.
Oh my God.
Oh, come on, man. That's so good. It'd be restaurant, but with a W. That's so good. Clown asks, what match would you show someone to make them a fan? He says RVD versus Jerry Lynn from Living Dangerously.
Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville at WrestleMania last year.
Oh, man, I can't do better than that. That's such a good answer. All right, that's going to do it for the show today. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate it. We're going to double-check the YouTube stream and make sure that everything is intact. Hopefully it is. But yeah, thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Hold on a second. There's a super chat here. Jose says, we need Larson to admit the Hilton incident now.
I honestly don't remember that.
I believe you on that.
I don't remember that.
I believe you on that. And it could just to shoot here. It could be my memory exaggerating things a little bit. I do, however, remember you having a look on your face like you were pissed off at Hilton and him laughing and there being some slight concern amongst the other people in that vicinity that it might get escalated even further. That's my legit memory of that, but I do actually remember that. Wrecker Rack says, how about that new Cameron Grimes body? Yeah, he's Jack now.
Yeah, he is.
P. Kennedy asked, Steve, is there anywhere we can watch recent past MF Steve here streams? I've recorded all of them. I've thought about trying to put them up somewhere, but beyond them being generally available on Twitch after the fact, not really.
Jose Laguna here with the super chat says, watching the 2K draft before you went live, do you think Cena would give LA Knight cry face?
No, we've talked about that. LA Knight, he's oblivious to cry face.
Yeah.
He would no-sell any attempt. He would no-sell anything, like he would barely comprehend anything John Cena would throw his way. Mm-hmm. That's the magic of LA Knight. He's got that force field where nothing affects him. No mystique, No legacy, no history can affect LA Knight.
Nope. Yeah. None.
All right, everybody, that's going to do it for us. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. Till next time, we'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.